Leonard Garcia is a veteran of 32 mixed martial arts fights. His upcoming bout is unlike any he trained for during his time in the UFC. This time, the gloves are coming off.
I'd always said, if a sport ever comes and they don't make us wear gloves, I'm gonna give it a shot. I have to.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Bare-knuckle Fighting Championship!
When your husband came to you and said, I want to fight bare knuckle, how'd you react?
My first reaction was no. Absolutely not. We're not gonna do this.
Not only no, hell no. Why? For what? Like, what do you mean, bare knuckle? What does that even mean?
Exactly what it sounds like. Boxing without gloves. A sport that's never been sanctioned in the U.S. But now 6 states are allowing it, with others possibly coming. Despite the blood, despite the violence.
Oh, he's out. Right hand. That might be game, set, match, and it is.
The 40-year-old Garcia came out of retirement to fight bare knuckle, despite his wife's objections.
It is dangerous. I don't care who says what, it's dangerous.
Quick! Quick, come on, Leonard! Come on!
When you care about somebody this much, to have them go in there and have any risk of being seriously injured is hard.
When you're at a live event, this is what keeps them coming back, just this, that noise. You don't hear it anywhere else, but that noise, you're like,
this sport is blowing up. We're leading the way for it.
For years, David Feldman has been on a mission to have fighters take the gloves off. A former professional boxer, Feldman was promoting boxing out west in 2010 when he met Bobby Gunn.
All day, champ, all day.
Gunn had become an internet sensation, knocking out opponents in underground bare-knuckle fights.
Stay out of the ring.
I went to him, I said, I'm gonna try one of these bare-knuckle fights. I think the people are gonna love it. And he's like, you'll never get it done, pal. They're not gonna allow it.
Bobby Gunn in the black trunks with the silver trim.
In 2011, Feldman used Gunn to stage this bare-knuckle fight on a Native American reservation near Scottsdale, Arizona.
That looks like an old-fashioned street fight.
Where state restrictions didn't apply.
And down goes Stewart.
After that fight, he began a tour of 28 states, lobbying athletic commissions to sanction his sport. What was your pitch to these state athletic commissions?
The pitch was, it's more exciting, and it's gonna create revenue.
And?
And they said no, and I just kept knocking on doors and having them slammed in our face.
So Feldman took the sport back where it had been for more than a century. Underground. He says he staged a dozen unsanctioned fights like this one we attended 6 years ago.
That's it.
It was around that time he had an encounter with the most recognizable executive in combat sports, UFC President Dana White.
Tapped him on the shoulder and I said, hey, Dana, I'm Dave Feldman. I just did that bare-knuckle fight in Arizona. And he goes, yeah. I said, you hear of it? Yeah. I said, well, I'd love to talk to you about, trying to grow this into something. He goes, you'll never get that done. It'll never get sanctioned. And I was just like, isn't that what they said to you? Like, isn't that what they said to you? And I was, like a stupid thing I said, I'll see you at the top. And I left and I'm like, I can't believe I just said it to Dana White.
White declined to comment about bare-knuckle boxing for this story.
Good evening and hello.
But then, after 7 years of rejection, a breakthrough.
Welcome to History in the Making.
In June 2018, 2,000 fans packed a hockey arena in Cheyenne, Wyoming, to see the first state-sanctioned bare-knuckle fights ever in the United States.
So they were doing fights in Wyoming. They were doing bare-knuckle fights, and they weren't sanctioned by the state. When I heard that, I said, look, you're already doing this here. Let's regulate it.
By then, Feldman had formed a business, the Bare-Knuckle Fighting Championship, and established a set of rules.
They're 5 2-minute rounds. So everything we did with this, we designed for action. These fighters start from what we call toe the line, 2 4-foot lines separated by 3 foot in the center of the ring. The referee will bring them together. He'll say, fighters, toe the line.
Toe the line.
And then when they're ready to fight, he'll go, knuckle up.
Knuckle up.
Fighters are paid from $2,500 on the low end into the tens of thousands,
Thank you, brother. Thank you, that's cash.
which Feldman delivers by hand, sometimes handing out cash bonuses for good performances.
Bonus, 500 bonus.
Alabama will soon join Wyoming, New Hampshire, Kansas, Florida, and Mississippi as states to sanction bare-knuckle boxing.
Big shot with the right, Lobov with the left hand. Back and forth we go.
Last April, Jason Knight and Artem Lobov, 2 UFC veterans, beat one another to a bloody mess. Far from being turned off by the scene, the crowd couldn't get enough of it.
Wow. The bell at the end of an absolutely phenomenal fight.
It felt like they were making a trade-off for sport and strategy in favor of violence and gore.
After the fight, MMA analyst and SiriusXM radio host Luke Thomas seemed uncomfortable with what he'd seen.
You look at the face of Jason Knight, you look at the face of Artem Lobov, and they look like they got attacked by dogs or mauled by a bear or something. I mean, that was crazy.
This is a de-evolution of the sport that's already evolved. That's what we're talking about here.
He's got the armbar. Tap out. That's an Andy win.
Former professional MMA fighter Andy Foster now runs the California State Athletic Commission, one of the states that won't sanction the sport.
When you have fighters cut all to pieces, blood's going everywhere, facial fractures, broken hands, all of these things, this is beyond what I'm comfortable supporting.
I think it's a fringe sport. I think the overall general public is not going to accept it. I think it's too gruesome.
Mike Mazzulli helped write the rules that govern mixed martial arts. He now oversees athletic events at Mohegan Sun Casino in Connecticut, where he says he won't allow bare-knuckle boxing.
When MMA started, I helped write the unified rules back in 2002, and everyone thought that was barbaric, and now everyone's regulating it. Will I ever regulate bare-knuckle boxing? I don't think so, but if I do, I know for a fact that it won't be recycled MMA fighters that shouldn't get in the cage or the ring anymore.
Leonard Garcia.
Mazzulli is concerned about aging fighters like Leonard Garcia, who lost 7 of his last 10 MMA fights before agreeing to fight bare-knuckle.
Yeah. Oh, I know.
Who are you talking about?
Garcia, a father of 4, including a newborn daughter, defends his decision to re-enter the ring.
I don't feel like I'm being exploited at all. If I go out into training and I look like I'm not moving correctly, or if everybody on the outside can look in and tell me, hey, you don't look good, then I'm not gonna do it.
A lot of people keep saying that I'm using former washed-up UFC guys or former UFC guys or former fighters. I am, because there isn't any current bare-knuckle fighters around, so who am I supposed to use?
Feldman also says bare-knuckle boxing, despite its bloody appearances, is no more dangerous than other combat sports.
The optics are horrible. I think that's just optics. That doesn't translate into serious injury. So when was the last time you had a
Boston area sports neurologist Dr. Peter Warner has been a ringside doctor for 10 years. He chairs a medical committee which recently recommended that bare-knuckle boxing be sanctioned in Massachusetts.
In traditional boxing, you're probably going to have more chronic brain trauma from repetitive concussive and subconcussive blows to the head and brain.
Now Beltran definitely cut. Back comes Tony.
In bare-knuckle boxing, you're going to have more hand fractures, more head and face lacerations, maybe some more eye injuries.
Oh!
That's exactly what we saw in Mississippi, where Feldman has staged 5 events. Athletic officials there say roughly 50% of bare-knuckle fighters require stitches. That's more than twice the amount for MMA fighters and more than that for boxers.
A lot more cuts, but a lot less damage, because I think people get knocked out earlier or stop earlier.
Tonight, BKFC is back in the American South, the location.
We were there in August in Biloxi, where the evolution of bare-knuckle boxing was on full display with a slicker television production.
And culminates with our main event, Leonard Garcia versus Jim Allers in the super welterweight division.
In an attempt to grow the sport, Feldman, who says he only recently started turning a profit, streamed this fight for free. Nearly 3,000 fans lined up to watch the event live.
It's like, I love hockey too. I just like that violence of it, just to get that aggression.
I love seeing somebody get knocked out. It's just as simple as that. I want to see somebody get hit and pop around on the canvas.
Let's go, knuckle up. The bell in round number 1.
From the opening fight, fans got what they came for. And it was clear longtime cutman Stitch Duran
he's not getting up.
was going to have a busy night.
I'm here to take care of you. No, relax. Wait. Give me a moment. Give me a minute, okay? Good.
To the pocket. That's exactly what we see.
When Caleb Harris knocked Jonathan Vistante out cold, it provided the most thrilling and frightening moment of the night.
Vistante was absolutely out face first.
A concerned Feldman watched as Vistante lay motionless on the canvas. Vistante was later examined by doctors and ultimately cleared medically.
Is this your first bare-knuckle fight?
My first bare-knuckle fight. It might be my last.
While Leonard Garcia was getting taped up backstage, the only women's fight on the card that night morphed into a slugfest. Helen Peralta emerged from her first ever bare-knuckle fight with her face badly disfigured. Just look at Peralta before and after her featherweight championship bout, and she won. Despite her injuries, we found Peralta still riding a wave of adrenaline-fueled emotion.
Do you want to keep doing bare-knuckle boxing?
Are you kidding me? I finally did the worst part, which is the first fight. Like, I'm not gonna quit now. That's the most exciting thing I've done in a long time. Here's the thing, it's like your entire nervous system. Every single neuron in your body is being tickled at the same time by like electricity. And your body doesn't know what to do. It's just an amazing experience. It can only be compared to having an orgasm that lasts way longer.
Here is Leonard Garcia!
In the main event, with his wife Leah and 8-year-old daughter Bahati among his family ringside, Leonard Garcia immediately found himself under siege.
Look up! To the modern BKFC rules and a ferocious start.
Wait, come on, Leonard! Come on, Leonard! Come on! Come on, get up! Come on, baby!
Just seconds into the fight, Garcia's eye was so swollen he couldn't see out of it.
Come on, babe! Come on, Dad! Oh, come on, Dad! Come on, babe!
Left hand, right hand, another right uppercut. Garcia in all sorts of trouble.
Stop it already! Stop! Stop!
The fight was stopped just a minute and 38 seconds in. The scene, a reminder the fight game brings with it
See okay out of it, or just temporary?
inescapable realities.
This is painful, you know, this is painful for my family to watch. They've seen all the hard work that I put in, but at the end of the day, it's a fight. The highs and lows of fighting are just this way. It's either you're all the way on top of the mountain or you're underneath it.
The future of bare-knuckle boxing is unclear. But Feldman says he's determined to bring his sport from the underground into the mainstream.
We are going through some of the same obstacles that the UFC went through in getting sanctioned. We have a very big uphill battle in front of us, but, you know, it's nothing new to us.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports and analysis, download the ESPN app, and for live streaming and special content, subscribe to ESPN+.